As much as the world has now become a global village and social media, a marketplace, there are hidden dangers online that one cannot just ignore, as ignorance of this can bring unlimited danger to such a person. This was the case of Cynthia Osokogu, who was stalked online for months without her knowledge before she was lured and murdered brutally by men she thought would become her business partners. Cynthia Osokogu was a 24-year-old vibrant young woman from Agbor, Delta State, who lived and grew up in Kogi State in the northern central part of Nigeria with her parents and 3 brothers. Cynthia's family was doing well for themselves. Her brothers had respectable jobs. Her father was a retired military officer, and she, herself, was pursuing her master's degree in public administration at the University of Nasarawa, where she had earlier graduated from the Department of English Language. Even while carrying out her master's, Cynthia, a former model, had left the white-collar scene and had joined the entrepreneurial train, opening a boutique of her own where she sold imported clothes. Everything was working well for Cynthia, and she seemed to have a blessed life, as she had achieved so much at the young age of 24, but these achievements were about to make her a victim of brutal murder. On July 21, 2012, Cynthia Osokogu boarded the plane traveling from Abuja to Lagos, Nigeria, hoping to seal a business deal that she believed would earn her more profit, and was eager to meet her Facebook friends who she had been chatting with for the past 2 months. Her Facebook friends, Ijike and his cousin Akwumi, who introduced themselves as importing and exporting businessmen, had promised to sell Cynthia the very same goods she bought overseas with the help of a relative and sold in her boutique for a price cheaper. This information pleased Cynthia, as she saw an opportunity to earn more profit, so she opened up to the 2 men. They soon became good friends, sharing information about each other, even down to family information. After chatting about family and business matters alike for a few months, Akwumi and Ijike told Cynthia that their goods had finally arrived in Lagos, and she needed to come down to see the goods, which prompted Cynthia's journey down to Lagos on July 21, 2012. A journey she never returned from. The plane arrived safely, and Cynthia finally met her Facebook friends, who came to pick her up at the Muritala Muhammad Airport themselves, and had generously prepared a hotel for her to lodge in while they discussed business. Cynthia felt they were kind and considerate, and were more friendly in person than online, and all 3 of them bonded well. Ijike and Akwumi took Cynthia to Cosmilla Hotel at Lakeview Estate, Festac Town, Lagos, where they had booked a room for her in advance, which pleased her greatly. They invited her into the cozy room and helped her with her orders, even down to the drink she was offered, which was a Ribena, a non-alcoholic drink. This pleased Cynthia and settled every single uneasiness in her heart. In Cynthia's view, they were perfect gentlemen, so she relaxed and sipped her drink while exchanging pleasantries with them, until they refused to leave even after sitting around for so long. At first, Cynthia thought they wanted to go straight into business, but when they didn't seem to be saying anything relevant or business-related, she became confused, as she couldn't shake the feeling that they were waiting for something, except she didn't know what it was. She put down the almost finished drink and wanted to ask what they were waiting for when Ijike and Akwumi stood up and started beating her, asking her for her money, card, and other items, requesting that she give them all she had. Cynthia truthfully told them that she had no money on her, as she does not travel with large amounts of money and did not bring any jewelry or gold. Neither did she use an ATM card, but instead used a checkbook for her account. Refusing to believe it, they went through her entire luggage, finding only her clothes, driver's license, international passport, and the little money and jewelry she had with her. But obviously, these things were fewer than what they had expected, as they had carefully selected and followed Cynthia for months and knew from their previous discussions that her family was well-to-do and her father was a retired military officer, so they had expected more from her in terms of money and jewelry. Seeing that they could not get much from her despite putting so much effort into lodging her in an expensive hotel, paying for her drinks, and setting up a huge farce to lure her, they got angry. The angry men tied Cynthia up with brown tape and stuffed a handkerchief into her mouth before sealing it with the same brown tape. Then they secured her hand with a chain and padlock to prevent her from calling the attention of the hotel officials to the room or escaping. They then began to beat her, threatening to kill her if she didn't explain ways in which they could get more money from her. The shocked Cynthia, who still didn't understand what exactly was that was going on, found out at this point that even her drink had been drugged and that they had been waiting for the drug effect to kick an entire time when they claimed to be catching up with her, but seemed to not be working. When they found that there was really no money to be gotten from Cynthia, she was manhandled and raped all night by her so-called online friends, and during the early hours of July 22nd, 2012, she was then strangled to death by them, thereby ending her life in that hotel room in Festac, Lagos, Nigeria, a town she was not familiar with and knew no one. Ejike and Akwumi took all her belongings, her ID card, phone, and everything on her, then left the hotel while deleting every chat history they had shared with Cynthia on Facebook and even unfriending her so that her death would not be traced to them in any way. They told the receptionist, Miss Njebu, that they would return shortly and that Cynthia was still in the room, but a few hours after their checkout expired, they called to inform the hotel receptionist to throw Cynthia out. Miss Njebu, who had been there the day before when they all lodged in harmony, felt confused at the sudden hostility, but she was not bothered. Instead, she headed for the room to tell Cynthia that she would need to pay additional fees if she kept on staying in the room. But after knocking on the door to Cynthia's room to evict her, she got no response. She hurriedly called the manager, who opened the door forcefully to find the lifeless, battered body of 24-year-old Cynthia Osokogu. The police were immediately called, and her body was taken for autopsy. But Cynthia could not be identified as Akwumi, and Ejike had taken away every means of identification she had. Leaving the police in a dilemma, luckily, the hotel had a CCTV camera which her murderers did not know had captured their faces. 5 days passed after Cynthia's death, and she still was unidentifiable. Even the men who had been caught by the CCTV camera were yet to be caught by the police. Her ignorant family was already worried, as they could not reach her. Whenever they called her phone, a man picked up, telling them she was not available at the moment. By now, her family already guessed that she had probably been kidnapped, except the man they had been speaking to never admitted it. Instead said she was sick and could not answer the phone later. He claimed that she had indeed been kidnapped and would only release her when $20 million was paid to his account. Akwumi and Ejike were still trying to get money out of her parents even after brutally murdering their daughter. Unfortunately for them, Osokogu's parents were not fooled by their refusal to let them speak to their daughter, and instead traced the phone call to Festac Town Area Police Command, where they were informed of their daughter's death, devastating the family. Cynthia was identified, and it wasn't long after that before Ejike, Akwumi, and all their accomplices were arrested, including the pharmacist who had sold the drug that was put in Cynthia's drink, a drug later identified to be rohypnol flunitrazepam tablet, or Geocida, and the one who was in charge of reselling all stolen items, Nonso Ejike, were all brought to the face of the law, giving justice to the dead Cynthia and many other women who showed up and claimed to have also been deceived and robbed by these two men in the past.